Hmm.
So, hi Uday, it's such a pleasure to see you. And man, you
I
don't
haven't
look
seen.
age. I mean, you look the same for how long? I mean, how long are you going to look like this?
Well, there's some hair thinning, more graying, changes a lot, man. Changes are
Yeah,
happening.
yeah, this sexy gray-haired guy. I know. Anyway, for those watching this, this is Uday Benegal. He is the founding member of uh, the
Oh, okay.
famous Indus Creed, founded in 1985. So, I mean, they were the first real big band. And this was the band that I went to when I was an 18-year-old. I went for their concerts and I looked at them on stage, and they always appeared larger than life. And it was at that time that I said, okay, this is what I want to do. So a big contribution in my life was watching Indiscreet concerts. I remember even riding down from Pune to Mumbai for your GS Medical show and watching you all do those shows and do that show. And you know the way when the sound wasn't working, you asked the band to stop on a countdown. Four, three, two, one, stop, and everyone stopped. Man, I still remember that. So
Right.
you guys have always been the impression, the what's the word I'm looking for? The inspiration, and
Uh,
uh,
thank you.
and you know, and I think I became a professional musician. Big part, a big contribution is watching those industry shows because that is what really made it happen for me. So
Super,
thank you
man.
very much,
Hey,
and thank you for being here.
sure.
And yeah, great. So Uday, one thing I want to, it's always been on my mind that when Indus Creed, before it was Indus Creed, it was Rock Machine.
Mhm.
And we've known the name of the band. The brand name had become so big, so popular. You all were playing big ass concerts with crowds as much as 15, 20,000 people coming thronging for your shows. I remember BG Medical grounds in Pune and how you all used to pack audiences. And after having such a big established name, what made you all change to Indiscreet, and how did that work out? I mean, what was the reason, and did it work for you in terms of retaining the brand name of Rock Machine, which was already so established?
Well, I mean, I'll try and keep it short because it's a long story. But in short, we were keen to take the band outside the country and take our music outside the country. And to that event, we'd connected with a British promoter who was
Hmm.
married to an Indian woman and who lived in Dubai, who had
Okay.
actually done a tour with us. He'd taken us on tour of the Middle East as
Hmm.
rock Machine,
Okay.
and his name was Russell Mason. Russell Mason. We got along very well with him. Very lovely guy. Very organized promoter, tour guy. He worked with Wham in his early days and stuff. So a guy was very experienced in the world of music and touring and promoting and that kind of stuff.
Sure.
And so we thought Russell would be the right guy to represent us outside the country. So we asked him if he would manage us. We
Okay.
would continue to manage ourselves within India, but we needed somebody to sort of represent us outside. And he jumped on board. It was his idea actually, which we, for all the reasons you mentioned earlier, we'd already gained a certain amount of recognition in the country as Rock Machine,
Hmm.
and for that reason we instantly balked at the idea and said, "Are you out of your mind? You know, we've already developed a following of some sort.
Hmm.
Why would we set the apple cart or really overturn it so radically?"
Hmm.
And his rationale was very good. His what he said was, a name like Rock Machine, while it works for you right now, is pretty limiting in terms of the kind of music that you're making. It also sounds like a bit like a garage or a college rock band. Initially, we were resistant to the idea of changing the name. We thought about it a little more, and it
Hmm.
just made complete sense to us. So we said, okay, let's try this as an experiment. Coupled that with the idea that the people at MTV, who Russell spoke to, thought it was a great idea and offered us their support and said that every video of ours that were put on air, and they would announce us on MTV News as well,
Hmm.
they would let people know that the band as Rock Machine is now called Indiscreet because everyone thought that Indiscreet was a good name.
Okay.
We went through
Yeah, I
everything
agree.
anyway.
I agree. I love the name industry.
But the point is, we were scared about. I mean, how is this going to affect our reputation? Will people know? I mean, changing the name,
Yeah,
it's a big deal.
absolutely.
And that's how it worked out. I mean, MTV said, we will support you guys. We'll spread the word that the same band with this identity, with this new name, which gave us the opportunity to expand the scope of our own music and our own sound far beyond the limitation of a band that was otherwise called Rock Machine, which is a great name for a college band or a garage rock band. But yeah, if you want to take the music outside, you want to expand your own borders.
Sure, I would agree that it sounds like that name is so imprinted in our heads as Rock Machine being India's biggest band and the real big band in in those times when we used to go and watch you guys. That somehow the name by itself, I don't agree that it sounds like a garage band. I think it sounds like a big band name. But yeah, fine. I see the rationale behind what's his name? Mason.
Russell
Russell Mason.
Mason.
Russell Mason.
Well,
I
the
see.
rationale was, well, if you're looking at it from his perspective, is if
Sure.
I'm going to represent you guys and try and find you stuff. Also, so we couple this with the fact that the Pretty Child video had just been put out.
Okay.
It was our first experimentation with using any kind of Indian instrumentation.
Sure.
If we were going to continue to expand our own musical palette, a name like Rock Machine wouldn't gel particularly well with that kind of sound.
Sure. Sure.
So there are many reasons why.
Yeah.
Honestly, if we had continued to stay in India, I mean, when I say stay in India, I mean maintain our ambitions only within the borders of India. And we continue to make the kind of music we made through Rock and Roll Renegade and the Second Coming, then fine, it would have made complete sense to continue as Rock Machine. But we had bigger plans. We
Sure.
wanted to expand our own horizons musically as well as graphically. So it
Fantastic.
made sense. And honestly, I have zero regrets.
Yeah, fantastic. No, but seriously, you guys really paved the way and you all took all the steps that need to be taken to really create a band coming out of India and actually going global. So here's my next question is that when something like this happens, when you're looking at going global, what is the contribution in terms of music producers and how much of a say do they really have or do they dictate terms when it comes to your songwriting or your arrangements or how were you able to deal with that and was it easy, was it difficult? Just let us, I'd love to know. All love to know how this
That's
works.
a, that's a fantastic question. This is the joy of being interviewed by a musician and not necessarily a newspaper journalist. With all due respect, newspaper journalist,
Sure, sure, sure.
ask cliche questions over and over again because of the
Yeah,
limitation of understanding, but
yeah,
it's great. So what happened was this was actually the first time. One of the reasons that we recorded the third album, which was self-titled Indus Creed, it was the first album under the name Indus Creed.
sure.
The reason why we recorded it in LA was because we had been producing our own stuff until then.
Hmm.
The studios in India were very, very limited in terms of what one could do. We worked with great engineers over here,
Yeah,
super engineers, good studios, but with all the limitations that a studio of that kind could have. Uh, one
sure.
engineer
Yeah.
or half
Making a guitar amp for that matter, or
engineer,
recording live drums. Yeah,
no chance of live drums in those days.
yeah.
We wanted to record in a studio where we could record the entire band, drums starting with live drums,
With live drums.
2-inch, 24 track machine, and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So Russell, in fact, was found us a producer in LA, found us a studio in LA, and we borrowed money from family, from friends, from lovers, and
I, I can imagine.
I got out there. I mean, everyone assumed that because we were getting pop headlines that we made a lot of money. We made no. There was no money in rock and roll, man. Whatever,
Yeah. No,
whatever
but that's
money,
such a gutsy thing to do way back then. And I mean, seriously, hats off to you guys.
we pretty
Yeah,
much
go
just
on, go on, go on.
flying by the seat of our pants.
Yeah.
So it was the first time we ever worked with a producer,
Mhm.
a man by the name of John Bogosian. And John was from Seattle. He grew up in Seattle and stuff, and he moved to LA. And it was actually fantastic working with John. It was amazing. It was fantastic working with a record producer. It was fantastic working in a studio like that. It was a completely new experience for us. And in terms of how it worked with the producer, we had sent demos of our songs earlier, like we couriered them to him. Those are the days when you didn't have the
Sure.
internet and could send stuff
Yeah.
online. So we
Yeah.
couriered demo tracks that we had done. By the time we got into LA, we went into a rehearsal studio with John, and he heard us play our songs. He said, "Okay, why don't you play me the songs that you guys want to record for this album?" And we played them live for him.
Fantastic.
What he did was he started to work with us, and this was a great experience for us because it was a real push and pull, because we realized how, as musicians, we get married a little too intimately with every aspect of our songs. And John showed us a way, as a really good producer, of how to distance yourself from them. So what he did was he would listen to us play our songs, and then the conversation go further into these parts are great. These parts you should probably throw out. And of course, our first reaction,
Whoa.
what do you think, man? That was a great part. He was like, yeah, it is a great part, but
Hmm.
is it really necessary to the song? Do you really require it in the song? So he gave us pause, and you think, say, okay, maybe you have a point there. It's a part that we like very much, but in the context of the entire song, maybe it's not needed anymore. And that kind of working with John taught us a hell of a lot. And with an engineer, a Finnish guy who lives in LA still, called UC Tegelman. Between John Bogosian and UC Tegelman, we learned so much, and it was a great experience in the studio with these guys. Uh, and so much growth happened for us individually and collectively as a band. Fantastic experience, man.
I can imagine. But did it ever happen that you won any of those arguments? That the band win any of the arguments about throwing out parts with your producer or not?
For sure, of course. I mean, the point is the argument would be short-lived. Maybe points of frustration would be like a little bit of a flare-up. But that's the world. That's this kind of world as well. It's the world of creating things out of nothing.
Sure.
But the point is, it wasn't so much about winning the argument, more than it was about making sense. What is best for the song? We were
So,
all in agreement about that. Sure, there could be creative differences, and John was. I mean, eventually he'd say, "Look, these are your songs. What you want to do with them is entirely up to you.
sure.
I'm coming here. You brought me in here as a producer to bring in an outside perspective and to kind of streamline these things. So my job is to alert you to these things and kind of streamline you into a kind of a consistency on the album, of writing, of playing, of stylistic consistency, and shepherd you through the process. Eventually, it's your album and your songs, so you can
Sure.
do whatever you want with them. So I mean, it was really more conversation. It was more about trying to find what was best for the songs and best for the album. Every now and then there'd be a disagreement, and then we had final say. There's no question about it. I mean, it was
Fantastic.
our.
Fantastic. So, going forward on the same point, in India we don't seem to know of these kind of producers, music producers, specifically to rock in India. So, now do you know of any producers or companies or who can actually guide these the younger bands to actually put out a polished product because finally it's about experience. It's about the experience that a music producer brings in. But who does a young rock band trust with their music? And are there any such producers in India?
In India itself.
Yeah, in India.
Well, I mean, let's go beyond India because we don't need to necessarily stay in India, but
Sure,
not to discount India at all. I will come to that.
sure.
So the last album that we recorded, which was called Evolve,
Hmm.
we worked not with the man as a producer, even though he does produce, but we worked with him as an engineer because he's a mixing engineer as well. A
Okay.
man called Tim Palmer, who mixed Pearl Jam 10. He's worked with Ozzy Osbourne, Mark
Wow.
Knopfler, U2. I mean, the big guys and whatnot. Very importantly, he mixed In Absentia by Porcupine Tree. And
Wow.
as importantly for me, he produced and mixed Raoul and the Kings of Spain by Tears for Fears. which was
My
at
God.
that time my favorite sounding album, and during an absent check was at that time my favorite sounding album. I would say our favorite sounding album, all of us in the band. And it was purely by, I don't know, by choosing to send him an email explaining that we're a band from India with not a lot of money, but would he mix our music because we love his work? That he said yes. It wasn't something that we could necessarily afford easily, but it was
Mhm.
worth every single penny that we spent on it. Tim Palmer is a guy I would say anyone, if you've got a little extra money, find a way to work with this man because he's a master as a mixing engineer for sure. If you've got even more money, because people do have money these days and some don't, I would say if you can afford and enlist him as a producer, Raul and the Kings of Spain is for me beautifully mixed but incredibly well produced.
Oh,
Now let's go to Indian, but
okay.
not in India, of Indian origin.
Mhm.
Warren Mendonca's brother, Zoran,
Okay.
who lives in New Zealand.
Okay.
Zoran used to come to India a lot and work, and has worked with a lot of independent uh,
Bands, artists.
yeah, yeah, bands and artists over here.
Yeah.
But the fact that he's still, I mean, that he doesn't come to India right now for obvious reasons,
Mhm.
even if he wanted to, but is in Auckland,
Mhm.
the internet is a wonderful connector. That's how it worked with us and
Oh,
Tim. We've never met Tim. We never
wow.
even spoke to him on the phone. Everything was done over the internet.
Wow.
Except for the
Wow.
fact that we sent him our Pro Tools sessions by courier because it's too much to sort of
Yeah,
send out.
it's too much.
But everything else was over the internet. He would put a mix up on a server, we download it, and then talk about tweaks and stuff over the internet.
Fantastic.
It's the same way you can work with a guy like Zoran, who's a fantastic engineer, mix engineer, producer as well. And works with a lot of metal bands in from New Zealand and Australia, and I'm sure elsewhere. Great
Wow.
guy to work with, fabulous musician. And this one,
Fantastic.
Warren, that's the pedigree you're working with. It's Warren, Zoran, same family, man.
Fantastic.
That's another guy. Now, if you want to get to Indian in India,
Uh-huh.
I mean, very very close to home, Keshav Dhar, man, guitar player for Sky Harbor, who's doing a lot of
Fantastic.
production. He's a super mix engineer. He's a super producer. He's a fantastic guitar player. So there's
Oh,
plenty of people you can work with. We're talking specifically about rock bands, right?
yeah, yeah. Specifically to rock bands because
There
you,
are three guys. One sitting in Austin, who's an internet away. One
okay.
in Auckland, New Zealand, the internet away. Keshav Dhar in Bombay, who's a rickshaw ride away if you're in Bombay, or
Uh,
a phone call or internet away if you're in other parts of the country. And I
And
would,
does Keshav have his own facility or he works out of some other facility?
I think, well, Keshav mixes out of his own facility.
Okay.
But in terms of production, what that would entail, whether one wants him to be there in person, if one's going to go into the studio to record, then the band would probably have to hire a studio. I think
Okay.
he's got enough of his own to mix. I don't think he has a studio of his own to record stuff. That's a whole other
Okay.
thing. There's
Okay.
also there's a Shantanu Hudlikar at Yashraj
Yeah,
Studios.
yeah, of course.
Shantanu's been working with a lot of bands. It's a great studio. He's a great
Yeah,
engineer.
it's a world-class studio. I know. I mixed one
Shantanu was
song there, and I had a mix engineer from Italy who did one of my songs there, and he said it's as well equipped as a probably a Abbey Road. You know?
absolutely. And
Yeah,
Shantanu has put out many calls out to indie bands that he'll give a special rate to work at that studio.
yeah, yeah. He is a
Shantanu
superb
the
guy.
engineer. He mixed the Second Coming, our second album, Rock Machine's second album. So
Yeah, I know. I
for a
know.
lot
That's
of
how.
yeah. So there are plenty of people you can work with.
Sure, superb. So I want to ask you, when you guys used to get on stage, and I've uh, been an event organizer also for some part of my this thing. So I've had a look at your Tech Rider, which used to come. I'm talking about the Rock Machine days,
Uh,
and seeing that kind of a tech rider, that detailed tech rider, whether it's about the backline or it's about the lighting, it's about. So, which one of you guys from industry, Rock Machine, were the tech savvy guys, and who sort of got you all to perfect the production part of your act, and because nobody knew anything back then, there was just So, which one of you guys were actually responsible for bringing in that professionalism way before went out of the country and did that? Even before then, you all were extremely tech savvy. I remember I don't have a copy of your tech rider then, but I wish I had it today. But I think it will still be relevant even in today's times. And
Well, we all pretty much jumped on board in terms of developing the tech rider together in terms of what we require. It took a while,
okay.
but to answer the question of who was behind it, the guy who was actually the guy with the greatest foresight in the
Hmm.
band, and who is the strategist in the band, and who is kind of the guy who led us, I guess, most on the efficiency path was Mark Selvin, the bass player.
Oh,
So,
okay.
so Mark was the guy who probably was the most driven in terms of pushing all of us in terms of uh, where we can go as far as the band is concerned. And we all jumped on board. He made a lot of sense, and we were all completely in agreement with him.
Oh,
But Mark was certainly the guy who thought ahead of everyone else in terms of where we should go with this. I will add that the tech rider and the hospitality rider and every aspect of whatever the rider entailed in terms of payment and travel and all
yeah.
of that stuff was all of it was trial and error, and it came out of getting screwed. We're getting, we're getting ripped off by promoters,
Yeah.
by competent sound companies who want to cut corners, by promoters who didn't want to spend money to get like good gear on board. And every time, this is, I guess, it's a life lesson, right? This is how
Yeah.
life works.
Sure.
Every time you fall, every time you get pushed against the wall and something, you know, slapped across your face, you figure out a better way to avoid that happening the next time around. I will have to say, with all with all respect to Delhi promoters today, we are very grateful to Delhi promoters in those days, especially in the late 80s,
Okay.
because they were the ones who screwed us over the most, more than any promoter anywhere in the country. By far. If there was one city where we got screwed the most, it was in Delhi by Delhi promoters. So they taught us the hardest lessons. They actually taught us the lessons that we needed to learn. So every time we got screwed, it was like, okay, one more thing to add on the rider. And that's
I
how
can
it worked.
imagine. I can imagine. So, I mean, the story, the journey has been really long. You've been around since 1985. Then there was, of course, Arms for Shanti and Whirling Kalapas. How did that come about, and what prompted you all to do these kind of projects? And
Well, so Arms for Shanti before Whirling Kalapa. So Arms for Shanti happened when Jayesh was the other guitar. There were two guitar players in the band at that time. Now
yes,
we're down to one guitar player, which is Mahesh Benegal. At
Mahesh
that time it was Mahesh and
and
Jayesh.
Jayesh.
Yeah.
Then
97 we
they
decided.
used to do that little dance move, yeah, right in front, And I so clearly remember Jayesh with his long hair and Mahesh,
Yeah,
and of course Mark Selvin and Mark Muniz is the left-handed drummer.
right.
He was one of the most graceful drummers I've seen, on stage. And the entire his act, his long hair, and he used to hit those double crashes, and there was something so graceful about him watching him on stage. So yeah,
Yeah.
sorry, go on.
Mark
Sorry, I'm gushing, but then that's the way I feel about you guys.
So yeah, what was the question again? I got caught. I got
Oh,
caught.
okay, sorry, I got
Oh,
even
Arms
I've
for Shanti.
lost the
Arms for
Arms
Shanti.
for Shanti and yeah, Whirling Kalapas, yeah.
So in '97, the music industry had changed in India in a way. MTV and Channel V had changed in ways that we were not happy about at all. And we realized we weren't having that much fun playing the music, that we got together purely for the sake of our own personal enjoyment first. And
Sure,
then, of course, the enjoyment of others. We
sure,
met each other through the love of rock and roll. We
sure,
didn't know each other before that.
sure,
Maybe a couple of guys knew each other. And most of us didn't know each other. What brought us together was rock and roll,
sure.
rock music. And that was getting sort of beaten badly by the way things were going in this country, and we were getting more and more dissatisfied. So we shut shop.
Okay,
Coupled with that, I was kind of not very happy living in Bombay at the time, and I couldn't think of any other place in this country that I would live in. And
okay,
I needed a cultural shot in the arm. So I decided I was going to up and either move to London or New York because that's what I thought I would be able to find that cultural shot in the yarn.
Sure.
New York turned out to be less difficult for me to move to than London, so that's where I focused my efforts. And as it turned out, Jayesh was equally dissatisfied with being over here. Already had a green card because his parents had applied for one some time back, and so we
Okay.
moved together. And he
Okay.
and I were also on the same wavelength in terms of we both wanted to work a lot more with Indian instruments and rhythms and melodies and stuff than the other guys in the band at that time. So
Okay.
it kind of, I mean, the synergies worked between the two of us. And we said, okay, let's move together. Let's start a band. We recorded an album over here with a bunch of friends, including Tawfiq Qureshi and Rakesh Chaurasia and whatnot,
Wow.
Partha Sarthi, all beautiful musicians. We recorded the album and moved to the US and started a band over there in New York.
Wow.
So,
You guys are really gutsy, man. I don't know. I can't even imagine, just packing my bags and leaving the country. I don't know. It's scary. Even the thought is scary. Yeah,
the,
of course.
the trick is,
Not that we're getting any younger now, but even then, I mean, even if it was 15, 20 years ago, it required a lot of guts and a lot of conviction to be able to
the
do
trick is to
something like
not the trick is to not think about it.
to be reckless.
Well, I mean, just follow your gut, man.
Yeah, man.
I
Fantastic,
mean,
man.
honestly, that's really all it was because if what is inside you, if how you're feeling, it's really about how you're feeling. If
Sure.
I'm feeling unhappy doing this, and I would feel happier if I did that, for me, it just makes more sense to do that.
Fantastic. So
That's
how,
that really makes sense.
so how did the rest of the band members deal with something like this? Starting new outfits, which did not necessarily include all the band members. How did it work? How did you all manage the interpersonal relations within the band? Because you all were almost like a one big family in together for so many years, maybe 20, 25 years. How long was it that you
Well,
all were together?
at that time, about 15 years, 12
Yeah.
to 15 years. But the
That's
point
still
is,
a long time.
yeah, but the thing is, when we stopped, when we shut, we didn't break up. The thing is, we never broke up. We just stopped playing. That's all.
Playing. Okay.
So we ended operations. I don't know how to say it, but
Okay.
we stopped playing. We continued to exist as friends. We maintained our friendship, even
Okay.
though we weren't playing as a band anymore.
Sure.
If
So there were no hard feelings.
no hard feelings at all.
Oh,
We
great,
decided
great.
to part as friends
Yeah.
rather than wait for things to get so bad that everything imploded within the band. It
Sure.
was a few times we made very mature decisions in the band because otherwise we fought like maniacs.
Yeah, I can imagine.
We're buddies, we fought a lot.
Yeah.
But this time we actually came together and as adults we said, while we're still friends, let's shut shop for now
Hmm.
and then move on.
Yeah.
And
And you can always come back whenever we feel like.
we never thought we would. And when Jayesh and I moved to New York together, we
Hmm.
never thought that any of us would move back to India.
Hmm.
It just so happened that 9 years later, Jayesh continued to live in the US, where he still lives in New York. He's got a family there and whatnot now.
Hmm.
And circumstances brought me back to Bombay unexpectedly in my life as well.
Okay.
And so I'm going to now lead to the other part of your question, which is Whirling Kalapas. I
Hmm.
moved back to Bombay. I actually moved back to make a film. I was getting more interested in making independent style movies. I've written a couple of scripts, both India based, and I was shopping the scripts around over here. So while I was
Wow.
living in New York, I keep coming over here.
Now
And
here's something I didn't know about you.
yeah, well, that was there.
Yeah.
So I started to shop those scripts around.
Hmm.
One of them got a lot of traction, and a studio was very interested in making the film. And I had a producer on, an independent producer called Rupali Mehta,
Okay.
who then very wisely told me that we've got this very strong interest from the studio,
Hmm.
but the only way you're going to be able to make this film is if you move back here because if you keep returning to New York every time we gain some ground, we lose that momentum that we've gained over this visit, and we have to start all over again the next time you come around. So if you want to make the movie, you're going to have to move back. So I said, okay, burn my loins. All the shit that I ran away from in Bombay is not just still there. There's more crap, but bigger and fatter because it's better fed. So what it requires within me is a change of perspective. I said, I'm going to have a perception I am going to have to change my relationship with the city because the city is not going to change for me.
Sure,
And that
sure.
and that made all the difference. And that was a life lesson for me is that just change the way you look at things and everything will adjust itself. If you choose to look at it from a pessimistic or a cynical viewpoint, that's what
Sure,
it'll be.
sure, sure.
If
Absolutely. I
you
agree.
alter your
Yeah,
perception, if you alter your perception to see it without being in denial, I'm not talking about putting on rose-colored lenses here.
sure,
See
sure,
things for how they are, but you change your equation with all of that. Things can
sure.
work in your favor. So I moved back to Bombay to make the film, but it was 2008. And 2008 was the start of the economic clusterfuck all across the world. So I moved back, and the studio says, studio is parent company in LA says, "Oops, we just
So,
received word from the parent company that no indie style films are going to be entertained now."
oh God. And you had already moved bag and baggage.
I moved bag and baggage, and while I was, this didn't happen immediately. Conversations were still happening for a good year, and while the conversations that were happening with them for that year, I decided that it's taking a while for this film to get off the ground, so let's make some music. So I got in touch with Mahesh and said, let's put together. He and I have been wanting to do acoustic-based stuff for a long time,
Okay.
and Mahesh, everyone knows him as this guitar god who cranks on that distortion pedal and blazes through these
Yeah, yeah.
guitar solos and stuff. Very few people had heard Mahesh as an acoustic guitar player, and he plays beautiful acoustic guitar.
I know. And finger style. I mean,
Yes, I
I've
love
seen some of his videos
whether,
that he puts
yeah,
up.
whether it's Travis picking or other forms and stuff, and I've always loved that. So I
Yeah.
said, come on,
See,
I love the mellow stuff, you love the mellow stuff. We've done that noisy stuff, that loud stuff for a long time, which we still love.
yeah, sure.
Let's do this, and let's not work too hard at it. So we'll take some old Rock Machine and Indiscreet songs. We'll take some Arms for Shanti songs. I've got a couple of new songs in my head right now, and let's choose some unexplored covers and reinvent them and do some acoustic based stuff. And let's call it Whirling Kalapas. So that's what happened. That's how Whirling Kalapas happened.
Yeah. I watched your show at the Euriska in Pune. I
Mhm.
remember coming for that show. This was, I think, a few years ago, and I was really, really surprised to see the kind of thing. But you really captivated the audience. It was a very quiet set, and you all did so many interesting things that day. It gave me a lot of arrangement ideas myself. So I really loved that set. And of course, Pretty Child is, just a song that we like to listen to any time of the day. It's on everyone's playlist even till date.
Cool, man.
So my final question to you is, you know, uh, hearing Uday Benegal, the independent musician, the rocker, the founder member of uh, uh, the one of the biggest bands in the country, and working in a Bollywood song
Ah,
and singing Hindi for the I don't know. Had you tried singing in Hindi before you did a Bollywood song, or because you sang for a very big film, Wake Up Sid, with Ranbir Kapoor in the lead, and it was a big film, and it's got some 4 million views. So what made you do that? And also, uh, does Bollywood uh, become the final destination for an independent artist to be dubbed as or seen as a successful musician in India today?
so I'll put I'll dial back a little bit just to provide a little context to this.
Hmm.
I guess one thing that I discovered at a very young age in the early days of Rock Machine,
Hmm.
the band didn't really make that much money, so I did a lot of jingles in those days, and I did a ton of jingles in the mid to late 80s.
Sure.
So that brought the money in, and I
Hmm.
discovered that one of the advantages of being a singer is that singing gives you basically a leg up as far as phonetics is concerned. So I
Sure.
was able to, and there were times when say it was a brand for a multinational brand, and they want
Mm.
the same voice and the same style across all their languages. So I'll end up doing sometimes, not very often, but sometimes I'll end up doing uh, jingles for the same product in
Hmm.
English, Hindi, Marathi. There was a time when I did Tamil, Telugu, Kannada, and which I discovered was the really difficult one, which apparently I nailed quite easily. I'm not trying to sort of poop
Mm.
my here because it was all accidental as far as I'm concerned. Malayalam, which has the toughest ones, all the r's and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, wow.
That.
Yeah.
And I would react. I mean, I would get the reaction from the language supervisor would say, "Hey, you got that so quickly. Most people struggle to get that one. You know, you're an English singer. How do you get that pronunciation?" So I figured, okay, maybe there's something. It's monkey here, monkey do.
Hmm.
I was able to listen to them pronounce certain things, and I could do it. I have no clue what the language is, but phonetically, I was able to literally ape what they were doing. So that
Fantastic.
is the background.
Hmm.
Cut to many years later, after Jayesh and I are in the US with the Arms for Shanti album and our band Arms for Shanti, a record company in India, Milestone, got in touch with us and said, "We want to release your album in India,
Okay.
but we also want you to do a Hindi version." So,
Wow.
yeah, okay, cool, fine, why not? So the entire album won't work in Hindi, so we chose the songs that we think would probably work in Hindi, and we wrote a couple of new tunes. And I got in touch with a friend of mine, Sohail Abbasi,
Okay.
uh, who's fabulous with Hindi and Urdu and the language, and a guy
Okay.
who I can connect with. And I explained to him the thinking behind the lyrics I had written in English, and he rewrote those songs in Hindi. Sometimes there were times when I was thrilled to hear this. There was a friend of mine who was very good with Hindi and Urdu,
Hmm.
and songs, including especially Kashmakash, which is the Hindi version of Varanasi Trail. And
Okay.
he said, I actually prefer the Hindi version. It almost sounds to me like this was written in Hindi first, and you wrote an
Wow.
English version later because I think the Hindi version is stronger than the English version. I hope you're
Wow.
okay with that. And I said, I love it.
Wow.
I love it. I mean, it's
Yeah,
worked.
yeah. Sure.
I had the experience of singing in Hindi all over again with that album. And I made sure that when I was singing when I was dubbing all those songs, I made sure Sohail was in the studio,
Yeah.
ensuring that I'm not cocking up
Yeah.
pronunciation
And being a townie, being a Bombay townie.
whatever. I mean, all that. I don't give a shit about that.
Great.
Whatever that background, colonial dingleberry, whatever
Yeah.
you want to call it. Good. The fact is, if the phonetics work for me, that's all that matters.
Fantastic.
So, and I made sure Sohail was there to keep me on track. So that's part two of the background of this kind of thing. Now, cut to Wake Up Sid, which happens, or the song Life is Crazy from the movie Wake Up Sid, which happens soon after I move back to Bombay.
Okay.
And I get back in touch with Shankar, Ehsan, and Loy, who
Hmm.
I've known for many, many years. I mean, I've
Yeah.
Ehsan known since I was a child.
Yeah.
Known me since I was a child because our families knew each other.
Fantastic.
And I loved Crosswinds, the band that Ehsan was
Yeah.
a part of and stuff like
Yes.
that. I've known him a long time.
Faces in the Dark. Do you remember Faces in the Dark?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Friends. Then there's Roy Mendonça, who
Yeah.
I've also known and done jingles with when he was. I'm talking, these are all when they were all individual and not part of this collective called SEL. So
Yeah.
I've known Loy as well and worked with Loy in the past and who I've done some fabulous work with. Shankar, who I also know as Shankar Mahadevan, the singer, because Industry had done collaborations with a band called Surya, which
Okay.
is composed of Shankar Mahadevan, Tawfiq Qureshi, Fazal Qureshi, Sridhar Parthasarathy, and of course the incredible Ustad Sultan Khan and Sarangi. And we've done
Wow.
collaborations together. So we've worked in that capacity as well. So I know them individually, and now I'm back in Bombay and I say hi to them. And they call me and say, you feel like singing a song with us? And I'm like, sure. You guys want
Yeah.
to fine. Now they by now they are Shankar Ehsan Loy, SEL, these
Yeah.
Hollywood uh, super composers, music directors of
Right.
great repute and stuff. And I was like, sure man,
Yeah.
it's down for me. They're in Purple Haze Studio in Bandra. I was in Bandra as well. And for me, it's an opportunity to work with three musicians who I respect very much, as well
Right.
as individuals who I like very much because they're old friends of mine.
Yeah, they're very lovable.
Yeah.
guys, Ehsan and Mendo and Loy. They're really, really lovable guys, I know.
And while I had never really made any effort to be a part of the Bollywood industry, I knew that they would only call me in if it was going to be a song that was going to be something that would suit my voice,
Suit your
and where
voice.
my voice and style would suit their song.
Sure,
It
sure.
is that synergy is going to have to be there, and I know that they would think that way. Sure enough, I went into the studio. Hey man, met the old guys. How's it going? How's it going? Hug, hug, hug. Play me the song. I said, I love the song. It's a great song.
Yeah, it is a
Yeah.
fantastic
I
song.
said, okay. Went into the studio, sang the song, and
And I
that's
never
yeah,
knew you had sung it. I mean, I was like, really? I was this morning when I was, checking out some of your profiles, and I said, Uday Benegal sang this song. I've known this song for such a long time. I never knew you had sung it.
yeah.
So superb.
So it was a simple confluence of friends and musicians who like each other, who love each other, who respect each other, and had a fun time in the studio doing that music, man. That's how it was. That's the story.
Fantastic. So, I mean, just the same question, to sort of wrap it up, is Bollywood the final destination for independent musicians to be commercially and professionally seen as successful? Is that the final destination, or do you think that uh, the independent industry is capable of sort of looking out for their own? What do you
I
think?
think, well, see, the thing is that even the term independent industry, it's a tough question to answer because the electronic music world, for example, especially
Mhm.
EDM, is independent and
Sure.
doesn't require the support of a Bollywood
Oh,
career as well.
sure.
DJs, producers, and manage to do it completely as EDM producers or as electronic music producers on their own. That's independent.
Sure.
Hip hop today is independent. There's regional language hip hop taking place across the country. They're managing without necessarily having an alternate or a side career in Bollywood. Uh, there are many, many such versions of it. If we're talking about independent music in terms of indie rock, certainly indie rock today, you're going to be very, very lucky if alone is going to provide you a career that's going to be able to pay for your rent and your groceries and take care of your family if you have a family. When I say if you have a family, I mean
Sure. Sure.
spouse and children and stuff like that. So it varies from person to person, what you do with your music and the kind of music you're making. For the
Sure.
indie rock musician, I would certainly say that having a foot in, or more than a foot, in the Bollywood world is going to increase your chances of surviving happily exponentially
Sure.
because
Sure.
it takes the pressure of having to earn a living from something that is difficult anywhere in the world. Indie rock anywhere in the
It,
world. Rock and
yeah.
roll
Yeah.
has always been a struggle for musicians across the world. We
Right.
look,
Yeah.
we all looked at the UK and the US and looked at their
Yeah.
charts, seen all these bands and the rock stars, especially the bands of the 90s, those years of excess,
Yeah.
and their own airplanes and their own
Yeah.
fucking yachts and
Yeah.
fucking parties and
That
pussy and
does,
all that
that
shit.
that doesn't
That's,
exist.
yeah, if it exists, it's only for a few people.
Yeah.
But by and large, I mean, you're going to really work your butt off, and there's a lot of struggle that goes with it, which is all good, which is
Yeah.
fine. Nothing wrong with struggle. There's nothing wrong with
Sure.
working hard to get your shit going. But if you really want to take the pressure off, Bollywood is a great, great opportunity and a great alternative
Mhm.
to make some money and to earn enough of a living so that uh, you can have some fun on the
Subsidize.
side. Your
Yeah.
own.
Subsidize your passion with.
There you go. That's it.
Yeah. Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay. Great, fantastic. Uday, this was your insights, your inputs, and it was just fantastic talking to you.
No problem.
And
Always.
thank you so much for coming in on such short notice. I just called you yesterday, and we're doing this today.
It's not like I
And
got anywhere to go.
sorry,
It's not
sorry.
like I got anywhere to go. He's
Yeah,
happy.
I know. That's where the idea stemmed from, actually. I've got fed up sitting in the studio and doing hours and hours of work, so I decided let me do something fun, let me interact with people, and I started yesterday, and I'm really enjoying this. So, and thank you so much. And I'm fortunate to have friends like you guys who are interesting personalities who have such big achievements under their belt, have led such rich lives and so much to share. So I thought I should put put that to use and actually let some people, take a sneak peek into your lives. So great. Thank you so much, Uday, and I will see you soon. And let's hope this entire period gets over really soon and the gigs start.
It will, it will.
Yeah.
These are new beginnings for, I believe. Maybe, I don't know, maybe I'm smoking something, but not right now. But I believe this is a dimensional shift, and we are now moving into a new phase of what will eventually be, not in the very near future, not that I know a damn thing, but what will eventually be a very, very positive move for humanity. It's going to be a clusterfuck and a cloisterfuck at the same time for a while, but it's moving on to new openings, man, new
Yeah.
awakenings. Yeah,
Yeah. Cheers to that, buddy.
yes, man.
To new openings. Yeah. Cheers.
Be well.
Thanks. Thanks. Yeah. Thanks,
Stay
buddy.
safe and stay safe and be positive. Important.
Yes. Yeah. Cheers. Cheers.
Just
Thanks. Thanks
right.
again. Bye.
Yeah.
Bye.